For the past year, I've been using this, the PSVR2 headset, as my daily driver on PC. I mainly use this thing with the PS5, what it was originally intended for, but after it got the PC adapter, launched August 7th last year, it was available to be integrated with SteamVR and all the other games that use SteamVR as an intermediary. And after about 300 hours in SteamVR with the PSVR2 over the last year, how is it? Well, some people will tell you that it's the easiest, most flawless SteamVR experience you can possibly have, and it works like a charm with everything. And some people will tell you that it's a disaster, bug-riddled mess with Bluetooth that doesn't work properly. I'm here to tell you that it's neither of those. But what it is good. I have a lot of thoughts about this headset 1 year later, and I'm here to tell you about it. Now, I'm not going to cover everything in detail in terms of technical specs of the PSVR2 versus other headsets. A lot of other videos have tackled that. It has its benefits compared to a Quest, pancake lenses versus OLED, but ultimately I'm here to tell you about my experience using this piece of kit on a PC, which it originally wasn't designed for. After we thank our patrons and members, and you subscribe to the channel, of course, let's get straight into this. Okay, first and foremost, let's talk setup. A year later, how easy is it? Well, it's exactly as easy as when it started. The simple process is you take your PSVR2 adapter, you plug it into your PC in the DisplayPort and USB 3.0, you make sure that your Bluetooth is on and working and compatible, we'll talk about that in a second, you plug in your PSVR2 into the adapter, and you boot up whatever SteamVR game that you want to play. Or if you're playing through another application such as the EA app like I did with Star Wars Squadrons and F125, or through the Xbox app as I did with Still Wakes the Deep one time about a year ago, through UEVR, then you have SteamVR open as you do that, and then boom, you're in and you're good to go. Now, the footage you'll see throughout this video is from a plethora of videos over the last year of me trying out Halo in VR, Still Wakes the Deep, F1, BeamNG Drive, Star Wars Squadrons, Lethal Company, Half-Life Alyx. All of these games that you're seeing played on screen right now, either through mods or natively, are through the PSVR2. And the setup is incredibly simple. It simply plugs and plays. It just works. Now, SteamVR does come with its own hitches compared to PS5 though. With PS5 it is truly plug and play. The game will just work, but with SteamVR you'll have to adjust settings. Sometimes the game will just crash on its own because SteamVR will do SteamVR things. If you breathe on it wrong, it'll crash. And that's not a thing that's exclusive to the PSVR2 either. Some issues that I've run into I've replicated with the DPVR E4, Quest 2, Play for Dream MR, and it's just a SteamVR thing in certain occasions. Now, as for specs, I'm not running the strongest of PC builds. As for flat screen games, I'm kind of at a mid-spec rig. I have a 6700 XT and a 5600, I believe, as my CPU. It's been a while since I bought my PC. But throughout using the PSVR2, sitting it at about 67% resolution hits the sweet spot of having great visuals and good performance in 9 out of 10 games. I played through all of Half-Life Alyx. Granted, it is quite an optimized game on high settings, and it was fantastic all the way through. Same with Blade and Sorcery, things only really start hitching once I introduce some very complex mods into the mix. And even mods that aren't really meant to work natively, like Unreal Engine VR Injector, still work fine. They're a bit more taxing on your system, obviously, because these are just kind of using raw power to turn these games into VR games where they're not meant to be, but all of them worked on the headset just fine. Now, I did just mention no compression, and that is one of the big upsides of using this thing on PC. Through DisplayPort, games look crystal clear. I've used Quest before on PC, I've used the DPVR E4 that is also DisplayPort, that has no compression and looks great, but nothing that combines the high fidelity of the PSVR2 with DisplayPort, up until I used this thing a year ago, and honestly, games look so clear. Obviously, you lose a fair bit of edge-to-edge clarity compared to pancake lenses, but for the OLED panels and the no compression through DisplayPort, granted, that is wired. Some PCVR players don't want that, but for me, it doesn't really bother me. You do end up with a fantastic looking image, and with the PSVR2, as soon as you get your sweet spot kind of set up right, then you'll know exactly how and where to put the headset on to get the most clarity in your image. Now, I've got to touch on the elephant in the room, and that is Bluetooth. Now, other VR headsets will essentially pack Bluetooth into the package. So, for example, with the DPVR E4, that also comes with kind of like a DisplayPort adapter that's built into the cable, and the controllers will basically connect through that, and everything will work pretty flawlessly. You'll have no dropouts or anything like that. For the PSVR2, your controllers communicate directly to your PC via a Bluetooth dongle or your inbuilt motherboard Bluetooth if you have that. Now, results may vary, but the one verdict that I've found since I started using this as a daily driver a year ago is that there's one Bluetooth adapter that used to have a load of issues, and that was the TP-Link UB500, I believe it's called, or the main TP-Link that is advertised on the PSVR2 website for PC usage. Now, when I originally got this Bluetooth adapter, It was awful, and I absolutely hated it. It would hang and drop out loads with the Sense controllers. It just didn't work properly at all. But TP-Link actually fixed this quite quickly, and a lot of people don't know this fact. I'll leave the link in the description below to the Bluetooth driver, but they released an experimental Bluetooth driver just for the PSVR2 Sense controllers that updated the firmware of the TP-Link adapter, and now it works flawlessly. I've tested this in both the long range model, which has a little antenna at the top, and the micro model, that is the small one that just kind of slots in, and they both work great with the new driver update. If you're having trouble still with your Bluetooth and somehow haven't given up yet with TP-Link, try installing that because it fixed all of my issues, and since then, it's been smooth sailing. One thing with Bluetooth though that you cannot fix, or at least not yet, but there's potential for it in the future, is the fact you have to pair your controllers back and forth if you also have a PS5. So, you connect your controllers to your PS5 via USB-C, and you're good to go. You can play VR games on your PlayStation console. Now you want to play on PC. Okay, so you have to hold the power button and the options button, or the share button on the opposite controller, and hold that down for a couple of seconds, wait till they blink, and on your PC, you go into your Bluetooth settings, and you connect both controllers, and you're good to go. Now you're done gaming on your PC with the PSVR2, you want to go back to PS5, and that means you have to get out your cables again, and connect it up again back to your console. This might not sound too tedious, but trust me, after a while it is. It's the one thing that puts me off switching between PC and console constantly with VR, apart from this bloody summer heat in the UK, and I hope Sony does some work to improve this. Now that's actually possible because with the DualSense controllers, the regular PS5 controllers, you can now pair two Bluetooth devices. So if your PC was on and you press the power button on your controller, it would connect to your PC, but if your PlayStation was on, it would connect to that. So you'd be able to have it connected to both and not have to repair each time. I really hope they bring this to the Sense controllers as an update because it definitely is possible with the Bluetooth technology, and that would fix a lot of my issues with pairing. Overall though, if you're just using it for PC VR, you're not going to have to worry about that at all. They'll just connect to your PC and you're good to go. If you're using it for both though, just bear in mind, yeah, you'll have to switch between them, and after a year of use, it can get a little annoying. Now, there are a couple of things that I really love about using the PSVR2 as a VR headset in general that also translate over to PC. I think its FOV is absolutely wonderful in the current VR market. It's got quite a wide FOV, even with the lens inserts that I use, that I'll touch upon in a second, don't you worry. It might not have the auto-adjusting IPD that some more expensive headsets like the Play for Dream MR that I reviewed a little while ago have, but those are very expensive features. But it does have those lovely OLED panels that just look fantastic despite the clarity issues from edge to edge because of Fresnel lenses. Its inside-out tracking is pretty standard and good in the current VR market today. You don't get the full haptic experience on the Sense controllers on PC with the triggers and the really specific rumble and haptic motors and haptic engagement, but you do get the standard rumble, and it is really strong. For games like Blade and Sorcery, you do feel the rumble heavily in your controllers when you hit an enemy, and it feels a lot stronger than other controllers that I've used. Overall comfort as well for me for the PSVR2, even stock without all the additions that I've made and modified to my PlayStation VR headset, feels great out of the box. So if you're looking for a comfortable headset that doesn't have a battery in it because it's wired, then this is also a good option. Another bonus is that you don't need the PSVR adapter if you have a USB-C DisplayPort out, as you can just plug it straight into that. And if you can't find the official PlayStation VR adapter from the Sony website or one of your retailers, have a look for the globular cluster one because they also sell a third-party adapter that works just great from what I hear. Now, I mentioned my PSVR2 lens inserts a little while ago, and you thought you were getting through this video without a sponsored insert. Not happening. VR Rock sponsors this channel, and I'm very happy to show them off. They're my go-to VR lens brand. I use them on my PSVR2, and in fact, I've used 3 generations of VR Rock lenses on my PSVR2 since launch, each one getting better than the last. They have both anti-glare and anti-blue light options, magnetic and non-magnetic options, and prescription and non-prescription options, so if you need them instead of glasses, or you just want them there to protect your lenses on your PSVR2, both options are available. I use them for the latter and they work fantastically. Check them out in the link in the description below with my discount code, and thank you to VR Rock for sponsoring today's video. One thing that I also find with the PSVR2 on PC is that the Mura is actually better than on console for some reason. I have no idea why, but when I use it on PC in darker areas, like in Lethal Company for example, or nighttime races in Simracing games, or the darker sections of Half-Life Alyx, I don't really notice the Mura as much as using it on native PSVR2 games on console. I don't know why that is, but it is honestly a real thing. Other people have reported this too. Maybe it is just a big placebo effect, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Now, I can't talk about PSVR2 on PC without mentioning the dreaded 90Hz bug. Now this is just for AMD users, and I'm an AMD user, so I've had plenty of experience with this. Essentially, a couple of driver updates ago, I think after 24.4.2, AMD broke the 90Hz option for PSVR2 on PC. It no longer functions. If you try and boot up a game, SteamVR will encounter a fatal error and you won't be able to play. And I was stuck there for a bit once I upgraded, because you can't change your refresh rate back to 120Hz, which works fine, unless you've got the headset plugged in and working. But you can't have it plugged in and working because it doesn't plug in and work at 90Hz, which is what it's set at. So I was sat there stuck, not able to change it back. However, there is a fix for this. Essentially, you'll want to roll back your drivers to, I think, 24.4.2. Once you're on those driver sets, you can then boot it up in 90Hz, change it to 120, upgrade to the latest drivers, and then you'll be able to play at 120Hz on the PSVR2, and it'll just work fine. I believe when you get the headset, it's set to 120Hz anyway, so just don't change anything in that regard in the SteamVR settings and you'll be all good. But if you happen to change it in panic, you can roll back your drivers, and it'll work on 90Hz, and then you can set them back again. That is something quite annoying about the new AMD drivers, but honestly 120Hz works just fine, but unfortunately we don't have the option for 90 anymore. Hopefully they fix that in the upcoming driver updates. I think one of the main crowds that I'd really recommend this for are sim racers, to be honest. I believe this works with the OpenXR toolkit that iRacing uses, so if you're a sim racer on iRacing, I believe you can get this working, but I haven't tried that myself as I don't race on iRacing. I just said the word racing a lot there. But it is a great option because it's not battery powered, you can run for as long as you like, it's quite comfortable. The field of view is pretty great for checking your mirrors, but not as wide, admittedly, as the much more expensive Pimax headsets that are renowned for flight sim enthusiasts and sim racing enthusiasts. But if you want a cheaper option, the PSVR2 is genuinely a really good one to go for. I've tested it with Assetto Corsa, BeamNG VR, F125 VR, F123 and 24, and while the performance of the F1 games is slightly abysmal at points, just because the VR port isn't that great, the other games worked pretty perfectly, so I'd recommend it for that for sure. Again, you won't really be worrying about the wire if you're seated in a sim rig, because you're not really going anywhere, and that's where this headset probably shines. But again, I've used it for more active games like Blade and Sorcery all the time, and you just kind of don't notice the cables there after a while, and I honestly don't find the cable that distracting. Overall, I've been really enjoying my PSVR2 on PC for the past year. It's become my mainstay PC VR headset. For very good reason. It looks fantastic, it's very comfortable. The battery life on the controllers isn't quite as good as, say, the Quest, but they do just sit on my charging dock when they're not in use, so they're always charged up and ready to go. And they use less battery on PC than compared to console because the haptics are used a lot less intensely. But I do wish that we had access to some features on PC even a year later, such as headset rumble, native adaptive trigger support, because other games on PC have that for the original DualSense, so surely Sony would be able to figure something out. But again, it is up to devs to implement that, so I see where the problem lies. And I do wish we had eye-tracked foveated rendering. I had so many wild imaginings about how the eye tracking could benefit PCVR users, and unfortunately none of them have really come to fruition because of a lack of support or it not really being possible there on PC. Some people are really trying their best to get at the eye tracking and get it working for games like VR Chat, but so far I haven't really seen anything that's easy to do and accessible to everyone, so don't buy this headset if you're looking for something like that. For me though, I've really loved using this headset over the past year, and I hope this has provided some insight into the ease of use, setup, and maybe some troubleshooting tips as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.